Shawn Harris, you are running for Congress. Today is the first day of early voting in this special election runoff. Thanks for making the time to talk to us today.
Well, you know, I'm so excited to be here with you, Zach. But I got to correct you right at the top. The day is not the very first day. It's the first day in 9 counties. The first day was in Cobb County, which was this past Saturday, because they made a decision to say, okay, because we're not doing anything on Friday, Cobb County actually had early voting on Saturday. So I'm excited that the numbers came in strong a few days ago.
Well, you don't need me to tell you that folks in the 14th Congressional District have had quite a few opportunities to cast some ballots, and they're going to have more heading up to Election Day that's coming up in just a few days now here. You've been running for some time. Let's start here. Why should voters cast a ballot for you to be their next representative in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, it's very simple. Because I'm the only candidate that can say, you know what, I want to work directly for the people in Northwest Georgia, all the hardworking people. Yes, I'm a Democrat, and yes, this is a ruby red district. All of those things are true. But I'm the only candidate can stand up and say, you know what, I'm a Democrat, but I'm not tied to the party, and I want to work for you. My opponent, he sold his soul, unfortunately. He failed in leadership because by selling his soul to Donald Trump, he owns this forever war that we're in. He owns this economy that we're in. The farmers are hurting when it comes to diesel fuel and everything else. So with that, what I'm saying to all the people in Northwest Georgia, just give me a chance. This election that we're doing right now is only from now to November. And then we got to do it all over again. So if I don't bring home results in this little bit of time, vote me out, get somebody else, and stick with what you had. Because right now, Marjorie Taylor Greene has even said, what's been happening in D.C. is not working, and it's time for a change.
Sold his soul. You said your opponent, Clay Fuller, sold his soul. That's a pretty serious accusation.
I know it.
Why make that?
Because I call a spade a spade. I tell the truth. The reality of it is 17, 18, 19 Republicans at one time were all fighting amongst themselves to get Donald Trump's endorsement. Clay Fuller got it. Don't know exactly how he got it, because I would tell you, we were clear and thought for sure that we'd be running against Moore. We think we're going to be running against Moore in November, but because Clay got the endorsement, Clay cannot push back on the president. If he pushed back on the president, he immediately gets a call and he'll be told, what do you think you're doing? That right there says to all the people in Northwest Georgia that Clay is not representing you. He's actually working directly for Donald Trump, and we all know that the president does some things extremely well. I give him credit on the border, southern border. But the reality of it, many things the president does is not in the best interest of rural America. And I can push back and I can support him. Clay can't push back, and that means his vote, if he ever gets to D.C., will be irrelevant. And that's why my vote is so important, because Democrats and Republicans will want to talk to Shawn Harris to figure out where I'm going to land on any given day.
You don't need me to tell you this. You pointed out yourself. This district is a consistently conservative district. You're a Democrat. You're trying to flip this district. To win, you're going to need a pretty sizable amount of Republican voters to flip and vote for you. You're criticizing President Trump. You're still going to need Republican voters. What's the case you're making to those Republicans you hope to bring inside of your camp and get their support?
Yeah, you know, I talk to Republicans every day, especially as a farmer. And the reality of it is everybody who knows me says, wait a minute, Shawn is a leader that's going to speak truth to power. And the reality of it is, like I just said, if Donald Trump and his administration is doing something right and it works for the district, I'm going to support it. However, if he's doing something that's not going to work out right for the Northwest Georgia, work out for small town America, I got to push back. And the reality of it is 20% of Republicans in our district have said, hey, Shawn, I'm going to give you a chance. And if you don't actually do what you say you're going to do, I'm not going to vote for you again come November. So that is what I'm basically saying. And on top of that, I'm proud to say that it's Republicans that have came to my headquarters there in Rome and actually got signs that say Republicans for Shawn Harris. And those signs are in their yards. Nobody's taking them. That tells you that Republicans are saying, I'm going to give Shawn Harris a chance. And that's why we're going to win this election here in the next few days.
You said you'd support policies from the president that help the district, and you would oppose those policies that don't help the district. Specifically, what policies coming out of the White House right now are you supportive of, and which ones give you cause for concern?
Yeah, one that's coming out of the White House right now that I support 100% is what he's done on the southern border. The southern border is closed down. We got that figured out. However, another area that we need to work on, and he got to get it figured out, and he would even tell you this, is what we're actually doing with ICE right now in the United States. President Trump said he was going to go out and get the worst of the worst. I agree with that. Rapists, the whole 9 yards, murderers, get them all. But what we have seen thus far is that ICE is well outside of their mission set. Why can I say that? It's because I used to work in the federal government. I have worked with ICE. I have worked with the FBI and worked with the Border Patrol, worked with everybody. Everybody needs to perform their roles, and the ICE should not be in our major cities. They should be picking up the worst of the worst, and when they pick them up, they're supposed to pick them up from the jail. They don't supposed to be out blocking roads and doing those things. And worst of all, you know when you're doing something wrong when you kill 2 Americans. And when you kill 2 Americans, you got to stop, get that figured out. But again, like I said, if the president is doing something right and his administration is doing something right, I'm going to be all in. Just like on this war, you know I spent 40 years in the military. I understand it, I've lived it, I've led men and women on the battlefield. The reality of it is, this is a war of choice. My last assignment was Israel. This is a war of choice, and what concerns me as I'm talking to you right now today is by the end of this week, or by the time we actually get to the election day on the 7th, will we actually have boots on the ground? And when we put boots on the ground, you're taking it from a guy that's a combat infantry officer. Our men and women will get injured and killed, unfortunately. That would not be an easy fight, and that's why I need to be in Washington, D.C. to push back on this, because at the end of the day, President Trump promised us that he would never get us back into war, and right now I think we're on a slippery slope of getting into another forever war.
If you are elected, you do go to Congress. What do you think Congress's role should be for those in Congress who would share your position of wanting to push back against this war?
The reality of it is Congress needs to stand up and get a backbone. That's Democrats and Republicans. Too many of those individuals just proved that the other day. Everybody, as I'm speaking to you, everybody from Congress is actually at home for the next 2 weeks. And the reality of it is President Trump stepped in after, I think, 40, almost 50 days and decided to write a executive order that says pay TSA. That's something that probably could have been done a long, long time ago. That says to me, DC needs leaders like me to come there and say, okay, guys, let's be adult in the room and actually get things done. Because right now, we're just pointing fingers at each other and actually just playing to be on TV. I don't want to be on TV. I want to roll my sleeves up, go to work, get things done, because too many people in Northwest Georgia are the ones that's being left behind. And like many of our people in Northwest Georgia, we're not in Atlanta, but most of us either drive to Atlanta, Georgia, or we drive to Chattanooga, Tennessee to some of the better jobs to be able to feed our families.
Let me ask you, I want to ask you a little bit more about the ongoing shutdown, but I want to take a pause now just because you referenced Tennessee and ask you a little bit about some campaigning and some politicking. And I just want to read this directly because your campaign put out a tweet this morning with at least that I had seen, a pretty new ad. You tweeted this out earlier today from your campaign account on Twitter, and you said that your opponent, Clay Fuller, wants you to trust him to protect this community, but, and this is a quote, when it mattered most, he wasn't ready to take a rapist to trial. That man walked free and hurt another woman. You said that is a failure with real consequences.
Yeah.
What is that about? Why release that? And I want to ask you this, because you and I have had conversations in the past where you had decried the sort of heated political rhetoric. Now, just a few days out from Election Day, you're putting that out. Do you stand behind that?
I stand behind it 100%. And the reason why I stand behind it because it's true. And that's the difference. My opponent, Marjorie, she used to put all kind of stuff out, and I can't say if it's true or not, but it was extreme. The reality of it is, Clay just saw that. We put that out now about 4 or 5 days ago. But it's been running on TV, it's been running on social media. Clay, I think on Saturday, put out a statement, and he said, hey, Shawn Harris is lying to you. The question I would say back to Clay, and I think I'll probably see him somewhere tonight, is this. If I'm lying, then where is the lie? Was the person not a rapist? Did the newspaper person that wrote the article in Chattanooga, was he lying? Did the judge, when the judge said the statement of saying, hey, you don't have your stuff together, you got to release this guy, was that a lie? And then when the individual got out of jail, during that period of time while he was out of jail, did he go and beat another woman up and crush her face? If all those things are true, then where's the lie? The only reason I'm talking about it is because Clay loves to say that he's a warrior for Northwest Georgia. I know what a warrior is. A warrior doesn't drop the ball. And what Clay should be saying, a real leader would say, you know what? I messed up. I learned from it. I was a young attorney or a young DA, and kind of move on. The reality of it is, what Clay is starting to show us, that he's doing the same thing that Donald Trump does. When he gets called out on something, instead of owning it, he tries to push it off on somebody else. So that would be my pushback to the whole thing is, if I'm saying something that's not true, tell us in Northwest Georgia what's not true about the statement.
Now, obviously, Clay Fuller isn't in the room here with us right now. I do want to share this, though. There was an update to that article that was referenced in the TV commercial. That same journalist wrote the update to the piece, and right at the very top of it, the journalist wrote in that story that Clay Fuller said the trial in September was pushed back because some critical witnesses were not available when the trial was supposed to begin.
Guess what?
Do you give credit to that?
I give credit to that. The reality of it is, you either got to be ready or you're not. At the end of the day, Clay was in charge of that particular case. He dropped the ball. They let the guy out of jail because they wasn't ready. That's leadership. And when he got out in that little bit of time, he actually went and hurt a second lady. I'll go on and tell you the rest of it. The guy's in jail now. I'm happy he's locked up. What we're talking about, if you are going to be a warrior for Northwest Georgia, you got to be ready to fight today. You can't drop the ball, because what we have already seen here in Northwest Georgia is too many times Marjorie Taylor Greene said she was going to do something. She didn't do it. She now tells us that insurance cost is too high. She actually told us that because her son or daughter turned 26 years old. She's now told us that, hey, the Epstein files, which I agree with her, need to be released. And then on top of that, she agrees with me that we're in the middle of a war of choice. Only thing I'm saying is, if Clay dropped the ball on this and don't want to own up to it, then what else he's going to drop the ball on? Because the other night when we did the debate, they asked him the simplest question it was. The number one industry in Georgia is agriculture. The number one industry in Northwest Georgia, agriculture. And he got the easiest question of, what are you going to do for the farmers? And he could not answer the doggone question. So how are we going to send somebody to Congress that don't even understand agriculture and understand farmers when that's the number one thing that we do in Northwest Georgia?
Let's talk about the farmers, and let's talk about everybody in Georgia and around the country who is struggling with the cost of things right now.
Yes.
Affordability has become a buzzword. It's almost become cliche, but it is also a truism. People are worried about how much things cost right now. You go to Congress, what do you do to make life more affordable?
The reality of it, as soon as I get there, I'm going to be working every day to bring down the cost, because that cost right now is extremely high because of tariffs, but because we're in a war of choice. So what's killing most people right now in Northwest Georgia is every time they go to the pump. The day when I drove to you, I wanted to see you, but it hurt when I put that diesel in that truck to come up here to Atlanta today, because even though our governor has taken the tax off, diesel is still costing $4.99. That's without the tax. And if you put on top of that all the other costs that we have, that is why I want to go to D.C. One, to get us out of this war. That would bring down costs. But then on top of that, to work with others across the aisle to say, okay, what is affecting other rural communities? when it comes to health care, when it comes to everything across the board, what can we do to agree on some things to bring that cost down? And I believe when I get to D.C. as a Democrat, and a Democrat that's willing to reach across the aisle, I will find other Republicans that live in rural communities like us that will say, you know what, Shawn, I think I can work with you. You're a little bit different, and I think we can actually get these things passed.
You bring up the war that we're currently in the midst of. Affordability concerns long predate this fairly recent conflict in the Middle East. What specifically would you do to lower those costs beyond trying to wrap up this ongoing conflict in the Middle East?
Yeah, it's all about going back and looking at the big, beautiful bill. When you look at that big, beautiful bill, it's not that beautiful. A lot of things that have been said that was going to happen is not happening. The reality of it is our interest rates have continued to go up, even though President Trump wants them to come down. And that's why I'm saying when I get to Congress, we need more leaders like me to go there and say, what can we do? What can we agree upon? Because there's a lot to be agreed upon. The reality of it is we got a bunch of leaders in D.C., Democrats and Republicans, that they kind of like the status quo of chaos. I want to bring peace back to the situation. I want to bring a calmness back to the situation. I want to bring back a situation where we go into a room, close the doors, and we're not leaving out of the room until we come up with a compromise, because that's what the people of America are looking for, and specifically that's what the people of Northwest Georgia is looking for.
I'm going to ask you a couple last questions here. I always want to be respectful of your time. You're talking about making tough choices in Congress. Right now, we're still in the middle of this partial government shutdown that is impacting the Department of Homeland Security, and most visibly right now, TSA. What would you do to break the logjam if you were elected to Congress? At some point, this agency is going to have to get a funding bill out of Congress.
Yeah. You know, I was just out of the airport a few days ago talking to some of those individuals, and then I just went out there to just let them know, with no cameras, no nothing. I went out there to say, hey guys, I get to Congress, I got you, I'm gonna work for you. The reality of it is, I can't keep saying it over and over and over again. These next people that we elect, that we send to D.C., can't go up there and just be, I'm wearing a blue shirt or red shirt. It has to be somebody that's going to walk in the room and say, okay, enough is enough. Because right now, this shutdown that we in should have never happened. This is the second shutdown in less than a year. The reality of it is our Congress is dysfunctional, completely across the board. And when I say dysfunctional, the Republican Senate actually just agreed just the other day that says we're going to fund it. Then it comes over to the House, to where the House is controlled by the Republicans, and they say, no, we don't want to do it at all. That's why you need me up there, because my vote as the person representing Northwest Georgia will become so important, because they don't know which way I'm going to vote. And that's what makes Northwest Georgia now a real player. And that's how we'll be able to get additional things, generational jobs, all kind of things here to our area that we've been missing out on.
Let's talk about reproductive rights. It is a topic that was at the center of the 2024 presidential election. It is always the center of politics here in Georgia and
But it's
elsewhere.
not anymore.
Well, let's talk about this, right? So as you well know, Georgia's heartbeat bill, it's now law. It bans most abortions after about 6 weeks of pregnancy. If you're elected, you go to Congress and somebody proposes a bill like that with nationwide scope, how would you vote on it?
I'm going to vote against it. I don't hide anything from my Democratic counterparts, my independent counterparts, and my Republican counterparts. I believe it's the right of a woman to make a decision with her husband, her doctor. My wife is a physician. I don't hide that. And that's why I only focus on kitchen table issues that affect us across the board. The other piece of this story is the Supreme Court has already spoken. As far as I am concerned, when I get to D.C., if somebody's trying to bring something like what they did here in Georgia to D.C., yes, I'm going to vote against it. But at the same time, I'm going to also be focused on those things that you would ask me about earlier. How can I bring down the cost of living? How can I bring up the generational jobs back to Northwest Georgia? How can I make sure that I get the farmers a farm bill? Because too many times I think we get to Congress and we get so focused on one particular thing that, yes, it is important, but the reality of it is you'll spend your entire time in D.C. working on that one thing and then don't get it done. And then you come home and say, well, I'm sorry, I didn't get anything done. I want to go to D.C., especially now in November. I want to go to D.C. and be able to say, you know what? I actually opened up 3 offices in our district, one in Rome, one in Dalton, and one here in West Cobb. And those 3 offices are focused on the people in our district and trying to help them. But inside of those 3 offices is 3 veterans offices so that veterans can go in there, because there's 40,000 veterans in our district, and make sure that it takes care of them trying to get their benefits. And on top of that, any veteran that's passed away, we're going to take care of their spouses to make sure they get their benefits. And the last piece I want to do is when I get to D.C., I want to make sure, because I'm already talking to every county out there, their Chamber of Commerce, is what kind of jobs do you want me to bring to your particular area? The last place I had this conversation was in Murray County. Murray County is probably the reddest of the red. Guess what? That's why leadership matters, is because I'll go and talk to any and everybody in our district, because I want to make sure that I represent any and everybody in our district.
We spent a lot of time talking about kitchen table issues, but I do want to make sure we land the plane in this conversation about reproductive rights as well. You said you would vote against a hypothetical bill that would carry Georgia's 6-week time limit to a nationwide kind of bill. Do you believe that there should be any restrictions on when a woman can access an abortion?
I believe that we should go back to what we already had. That's what I believe. But at the end of the day—
You're talking about Roe v. Wade.
Roe v. Wade. That's what I believe. But what I'm saying to you is this. At this moment in time, the Supreme Court has spoken. At this moment in time, Northwest Georgia, where we're at, we have a lot more things for your congressman to be working on other than this issue. Because if I go to D.C. and the only thing I'm focusing on is this, then we actually never get better. Our farmers continue to go bankrupt. We don't bring intergenerational jobs. Cost continues to go up. Our school system, because our tax break is not what it is, we got potentially schools that's going to go out of business. These are the issues that Democrats, Independents, and Republicans are saying to me, Shawn, we want you to go to D.C. and focus on the kitchen table issues. After you get that stuff done, then we can start splitting on a couple other things. But right now, as a group of people in Northwest Georgia, focus on this, get it done, and then after you get all of those things done, then we can start talking about what we potentially don't agree upon.
We always end with this when we do these kind of candidate interviews. To a voter who still has not made up their mind, still has not yet cast a ballot, your elevator pitch to them would be what?
Yeah, it's very simple. Give me an opportunity. Trust me. And at the end of the day, if I don't produce for you, and when I say produce for you, I'm talking about kitchen table issues and focusing on yourself, your kids, and your grandkids. I want to make sure that when I get to D.C., that you can hold me accountable, because more than 7,000 people in this district got my direct phone number because I work for them only, period. So my elevator speech is this. Give me a shot. I already been serving you for 40 years in the military. And for those 40 years in the military, I never said I was a Democrat, Independent, or Republican. Only thing I said is I was willing to die for the American people. And the difference is now, only thing I want to do is go to D.C. and work for the people of Northwest Georgia, period. Whatever those challenges are, I guarantee you when I get there, you'll be proud of me, and you'll be proud to say that I'm your representative.
Shawn Harris, thank you as always.
Thank you very much, my friend.
All right.